You are on.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nov, and good afternoon to all the folks who are able to make it to this session. Sincerely appreciate you taking the time. My hope in the next few minutes is I want to keep it more conversational, not just a PowerPoint-oriented session. So feel free to stop me anytime if you have any questions. But by the end of the session, I'm hoping that you not only get a chance to look at a new way of understanding some of the core motivations of every talent, but hopefully you have the ability to take your own assessment by which you get a sense and a taste of how the tool works and how this may not only benefit in knowing yourself more, but also knowing some of the talent that may be around you so that you can leverage those analytics in the right business decisions. So my name is Ganesh. I thank you so much, for bringing me in, and I appreciate this opportunity, guys. Founded this company almost 6 years ago now. It's a mix of data scientists, neuroscientists, clinical psychologists, as well as mathematicians in the team. And what we have been working on for the past, I would say, 5.5 years, and this is actually stemming out of my own pain point. I work for companies like Cisco, where built their first analytics platform from the ground up. And as a part of growing that business, we grew from maybe 4 to 1,800 people in a span of 4 years, the fastest growing billion-dollar business within Cisco systems. But as a part of that growth, one thing that I learned quite a bit is my background is more into product management, data science, sales and marketing. But the aspect of scalability in dealing with people, and especially dealing with people with different personality, and especially in this globalization age, was something that I learned quite a bit in that particular role. And what struck me in that role, and this is a true aspect of what really motivated me to start this company, is we actually hired one of the best talent.
Wait on that then, because it doesn't, it's not urgent. We can do it next
time.
Excuse
me, could you please put your phone on mute?
Super.
All right, I think we're good. Thanks.
Yeah. So what it really helped me in that process is we actually hired some of the best talent from the schools like MIT, Harvard, Berkeley, and we saw that some of these talent who were top notch in the skills ended up being at the bottom 5% of the performance management system. And I used to scratch my head thinking, what is that we are doing so differently that these one of the best talent that we hire is not able to work well within this new business unit, which is seen as the most cutting edge business unit. And what it boiled down to was primarily was the aspect of their core personality, their core motivations, not aligning it to the right opportunities. So as an example, we hired the best data scientist from Berkeley, and they were put in a position which was more of a system sales engineering role, where they had to go and talk to the customers on a regular basis. And because they were more of intrinsic or introvert in nature, they never used to go out and talk to the customers. In some of the cases, they never even showed up in.
Goddamn audio.
And in some of the cases, we never. Paul, is it okay if you can put yourself on mute? Okay. Sorry, guys. I see a couple of folks.
Yeah, we're getting some feedback. I apologize, Ganesh. Again, if everyone would please put their microphones on mute or their phones on mute, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So, long story short, that person who was hired as a system sales engineer, in some cases, never even showed up in meetings for the customers, and that was one of the primary reasons he got a lower score in his performance management system. And what it struck in the one-on-one conversation was that being introvert in nature, that was not the right role that he wanted to get in. But just because of the money, because of other factors, need that drives the decision-making process, it pretty much overrode the aspect of what his intrinsic motivations were. So that kind of pushed me into thinking, hey, is there a tool out there? Because this is not something that happened once. It happened multiple times with multiple other talent within the group. And I was thinking, is there a tool that can really help me identify the core motivations of every talent and then align it to the right opportunities? Because if you do that right, you not only help the talent, but you are also helping the enterprise in getting the right culturally aligned talent, which was very important for us as we grew up the group. And the most important thing that we learned in this process in the past 6 years, as we have clinical psychologists as well as neuroscientists in the team, is the only way I can identify the core motivations of every talent is not ask a single question. So if you look at the traditional way of how humans are analyzed, assessed, and some of the motivations are being brought up, the traditional DISC assessment, Myers-Briggs, Gallup's polling, 360-degree view, Strengths Finder, all of them are really good, but they always start with the aspect of asking you some questions. And from the world of psychology, if you're asking a question, you have to set the context of why you're asking a question. And most of the time when you do that, a talent will always map the answers to the outcomes, which many times doesn't reflect the true self of who they are. And from the world of psychology, this only represents 10% of who you are if you're answering based on need, because the other 90% is driven by some of the subconscious influences that drive every human's decision-making process. So there are 6 senses in the world that drive every human's decision-making process. It includes light, smell, human touch, colors and contrast, musical tones, as well as style of writing or the choice of words that you see as a part of your not only decision-making process day to day, but also your core motivations and personality as a whole. And that's one of the reason we started building modules that can not only look for the answers that you provide, but also goes beyond the answers, looking for these signatures within those answers so that we can understand your core motivations. And the second thing that we realized in this process as a part of the talent lifecycle management was it starts from the aspect of bringing in the right talent, because if you do that right, the entire talent lifecycle management becomes a seamless activity. And this is something that we try to do, is bring in the aspect of understanding the cultural alignment along with sourcing and screening right at the beginning when you're trying to look for the right person for a particular role. And the reason is simple. When you look at the aspect of retention, a big part of it is the cultural alignment of the talent along with the skills that makes that person stay within that environment for a much longer time and not only be productive but also highly engaged, and thereby the retention automatically goes up. And that's where we try to add the balance to this very delicate equation by giving you a tool that can start with the aspect of understanding your core motivations, and as you do that right, automatically it translates to tangible and accurate business outcomes. So the concept that you would be seeing here and in this particular session, I would share with you guys a link. Feel free to register into the link, and what you would be seeing in that link is these gallery of colors and contrast images. There are up to 60 images that you would see, and you would be asked to pick any 10 that you like the most within 60 seconds. And as you go through that exercise, within a minute, we are able to identify some of your core attributes that defines your motivation, which primarily includes your working style, your learning style, your dominant and compatibility attributes. And once you have that information in place, you can easily map those information to the relevant jobs or to the relevant team, so that we can show you based on your personality what are the opportunities that are in front of you that can help in tie in those motivations more closely. So in this particular slide, what you see here is the concept of understanding your subconscious motivations through colors and contrast. The leftmost part of the screen, you would see marketing guys had started using this back in 1960. There was no concept of internet back then. The only way they could connect a brand to the audience was through paper banners. And the only instance that really connected from the paper banner to the audience was through colors. 1985, Nippon research actually proved that it's not one colors and contrast. When you club them together, you can truly extract the personality of the users. And that's exactly what we did. Was we took this base study It took us almost 3.5 years to build the base model. A lot of people training the model, 69 countries participating in building the base model, equal division of male and female, ages between 18 to 90, where we have identified 1,560 color patterns so far. It resonates with 150 different personality types. And that's exactly what is shown in these color palettes that you would be selecting in the next few minutes. The other aspect of what we have built as a part of the IP is we can also understand your personality and those attributes using resume. So when you give me a resume, we look for the choice of words that you use to define your resume, and from that we use the ONET as one of the database to basically extrapolate some of the tangible outcomes. The tangible outcomes primarily include the same outcomes that you see in the resume, but the key part here is ONET is an open source database published by US government, where they have prescribed every role that is out there, right from janitor to CEO, all verticals you can think of. What are the technical skills and soft skills required for you to perform well? And they've also prescribed on those roles what are the choice of words that are being used to describe a particular personality. So we used that as a base model, and it took us again 2 years to build the base model, where we have identified through resume we can come back with not only the technical match of you with respect to the job, but also understand the cultural values and alignment of your soft skills with respect to the job requirement. So how does it translate back to the hiring process? The aspect of it starts with, if you consider the talent acquisition at a broader scale, there are 4 buckets that come in. It starts with sourcing, then it comes to screening, interviewing, and decision-making process. So when it comes to sourcing, we can actually use the resume analysis to look at your existing set of resumes that you may have collected over a period of time. You can actually put it into the system to understand the technical as well as non-technical match of that person with respect to the job. Or we also have the ability to source you from the 340 million users in our database that have been verified, and we give the LinkedIn profile directly. We are able to give you a prioritized list of candidates that would suit well for that particular position. So this can help you add a lot more candidates within the pool who are passive candidates who haven't even applied for the role. You can definitely add the active candidates who may be submitting resume. You can put it into the system. And what we have seen is the resumes have an accuracy of maybe 80 to 83%, because even though we look for the choice of words, there may be sometimes people may use templates, they may use consulting arm to write their resume. In that case, the tool wouldn't know if we are picking the choice of words of that talent or somebody else was given more prescription for that particular resume. So to refine that further, we in the process of funneling down the list of potential candidates, the people who are coming in can also be shown a gallery images. And as they pick the gallery images, automatically we can refine their personality in terms of understanding their working style, learning style, dominant and compatibility attributes. And not only that, in this process, we also give insights to how do you email, how do you communicate, what are the best tools to communicate, and what kind of incentive programs may work for this individual. So what I would love to do is, without further ado, I would love to share this link with you. Let me see where the chat window is. No, how do I get to the chat window? I don't see it here.
Oh, on the control board?
Oh, I see it now. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you are able to check the chat window, you would be seeing a link. Let me know if you're able to see the link. What you can do is click on the link and go through the registration process. The link would look something like this. Let me share this. You can type in your name, email address, and any password. And you can create this password just to make sure that you can always come back to this report later on to see how does your profile looks like. So feel free to type in the name. I'm just going to do that here. Demo, see demo. You can type in the email address, 7-character password. And as you do that, what you would be seeing here is you're given an option to select any 10 pictures or images that you like the most. And these are the gallery images that are shown to the end users. And it looks like exactly like this. It's a pixelated, it looks like a pixelated Picasso painting, where you have the option to pick any 10 that you like the most. And you're given a chance to do that in 60 seconds. And I'm just going to do that now. And as you go through this process, we basically are able to create your personality in real time. And you would see the profile being loaded in less than maybe 15 to 20 seconds once you select those 60 images. I'll just pause here to see if you guys are going through this process. Because once you see this report, I'll explain to you how do you read the report and how does this set as a base for us to basically create tangible business outcomes.
So Ganesh, as you're waiting for that, for folks to go through the process and so on, so do you want to take any questions that some folks may have at this juncture? You know me, I've always got questions. So does anyone want to pose a question or anything to ask of Ganesh? If not, I'm gonna test you on this one. So I already have a recruiting system. Where does your process sit in conjunction with let's say an ATS, any ATS? Is it the front end of this? Is this all pre-ATS candidate experience? Where does Dotin sit in your mind in terms of the infrastructure? If somebody's got a phone on, please silence that.
No, I think,
okay, go ahead.
No, I think somebody just opened up the registration. There is a video that opens up as a default.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
That was the music of that.
Oh, that wasn't a phone. So okay. Yeah. So where would you... Go ahead. I'm sorry.
This would sit right at the front end of the sourcing. So the beauty about this tool is that this can be a standalone tool, which can be used as a part of reaching out to the right audience. We also have APIs in place that can integrate into your existing ATS systems. If there is a need, we can easily do that. Or if you want to quickly see how to enhance your sourcing, you can use this as a standalone entity. Gotcha. But it comes in right at the start of the funnel, even before you pick up the phone and start the conversation with the candidate.
Okay. And the obvious question, I say obvious in the sense, so if I'm looking at a career site and I want to make sure that people coming here understand what they're about to enter into. So if I've stuck Dotin in the front end and says, here, click this link, do this, and so on. Have you had clients that take the time to explain a little bit beforehand what you will experience so that as they go through this process, they're getting a better appreciation for what you've just asked them as a potential employer?
Absolutely. So in some cases, what we have seen is the clients integrate the service as a part of not only explaining the end users. By doing this, you will get your own personality report for free, but also we will show you a prioritized list of jobs that would suit your personality. So this becomes like an intrinsic motivation for the candidates to go through this experience. Even though it may be just submitting your resume, they may say, hey, why do you want to use this towards understanding my personality? It can be part of telling them, hey, we can give you a personalized page which would show the jobs that would suit not only your skills, but also your personality, by which you can apply, get into the job, and grow your career faster. Does that help?
Good deal. Absolutely. For any of you in the audience who are in that talent acquisition space or have the ownership of that oversight or something, perspectives that you would like to ask Ganesh at this point before we jump into the outcome? If not, you're back on again. Go for it.
This is Mike.
Sure.
Perhaps you're going to get there, but I'm in the system. I did the assessment, and I'm trying to export it to a PDF, but it doesn't seem to be responding. It seems to be stuck in loading mode.
And Mike, I had the same experience. This is Lynn. I also took and I wanted to export, but that's not working either. So
it finally came back with an error. All it said was error.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Let me come back to you guys on that. Sincere apologies about that.
Thank you.
I don't know why that is happening, but I can get back to you on that if that's okay with you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So what you'd be seeing here is 4 components that describe the aspect of your working style, your learning style, your dominant, and your compatibility attributes. And let me even step back to why we started picking these 4 components as a part of tagging it as cultural values. So back in 2014, just to give you the context of how we arrived at these 4 key components, to me, I think cultural value is a very broad term, and I don't think we would be doing justice by saying that these are the only 4 components that would define aspects of what you should look for from the cultural values perspective when you bring a talent for a particular role. But what we tried to do back in 2014 when we started this venture is we went out to 50 companies. It was primarily Fortune 500, Fortune 50, small and medium business, and even government agencies. And we tried to probe or ask a question to the general managers who primarily run the show within the venture, or the founding members who pretty much set the culture within their organization. And we asked a very simple question: what does cultural values mean when you hire somebody for the first time? And what does it mean with respect to the alignment? And what we tried to do was distill those answers into a common denominator seen across all the answers, where every talent leader or every leader was looking to not only hire the right person with the right skills, but also right personality blending well with the job. And that's one of the reasons we started looking at the working style, and we picked Holland's Occupational Insight, which is a very well-known psychological study used in the industry for more than, I would say, 50 plus years. Then every leader wanted to make sure that they have this talent, learn things quickly so that they start performing quickly and better within their jobs. And that's one of the reasons we added Gardner's learning style, which says what style of learning you may have or is required for you to learn and basically start performing within that job. They were not only keen to know the dominant attributes of that talent coming into the role, every leader wanted to make sure that this person's personality doesn't disrupt the chemistry of their existing team. And that's one of the reasons we also added compatibility attributes, which looks for complementary attributes that would work well with your personality, with your dominant attributes. Okay. So primarily what we have done is use the outcomes used in the industry. We didn't want to change the outcomes because it takes a long time for people to understand what are those personas. What we did was the way we approached to those outcomes, we basically made it more closer to who you are versus asking questions. We are doing it in a way where it has least friction with the end users, but brings out the most insightful information about the users. Okay. So you would see your working style, your learning style, your dominant. We have up to 150 in our database. We only show the top 5 dominant attributes, and compatibility attributes are the complementary attributes that make you work well with your team members. And this is very important, guys. People talk about diversity. When you think about diversity, there is gender diversity, age diversity, ethnicity diversity, but personality diversity is very hard to understand. And that's exactly what actually makes or breaks a team. And what the compatibility attribute does is brings out those personalities that would work well with you. So that basically it also takes care of the diversity of personalities within the team. So having this insight, how does it help you to make informed decisions? Basically, we give the hiring managers a couple of information. We give insights in terms of how should you email this person, how should you communicate, what are the best tools to be leveraged as a part of keeping the communication easy with this particular talent. We also provide insights to what kind of incentive programs may work for this individual, training wise, compensation wise, and employee engagement wise. And at the end, you would also see this is something that can be customized to every portal. We have the ability to look into all the jobs which are in your portal, and we can show the relevant jobs that would suit that person's personality. In this case, because you're taking the images, we wouldn't have any context of skills, but in the enterprise workflow, we will also get the resume along with images to basically look for the prioritized list of jobs that would suit your skill as well as your personality. And here you can actually click on each of them to take you to a page. Right now we are taking you to Indeed. The same concept can be done within your portal, where it shows all the jobs that you can start applying. So this becomes like a motivation for every talent to come in, apply for the role, and not only get their reports, but also get to know what are the other jobs within the company that they can apply for. But once you have this information in place, you can then do a couple of analytics. Say if there is a role out there, I'm just going into a role here, which may be a director of human resource. We can use this particular job title and description and create ideal models and use this ideal model to compare all the candidates that are coming in terms of technical fitment as well as cultural alignment. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm just going to copy all the roles, tasks, as well as the competency required for this particular role. I'm just picking up everything here. Copy. I'm going into the portal, and the first thing I would do here is create an ideal model. And there are two ways of creating ideal model, as I was saying earlier. Either you can just take the job title and description, and we will create how does the working style, learning style, dominant, compatibility along with technical skill is looking like for that role. Or you can pick, that would be more like an out-of-the-box model. But if you feel that you have to capture the cultural values very centric to your organization, which would differ based on many factors, you can actually pick the top performers within your group, no more than 10, no less than 2, who may have gone through this process of submitting resume, picking images, which basically helps them to create their personality in less than a minute, but also use those profiles to create an amalgamated score, which would help you to create an ideal model specific to that organization. Right now, I'm just using out-of-the-box model. I'll also show you how we can do it using the top performers. I'm just pasting the description. And as soon as I paste the description, you would see the model is built. And if I click on the action, this would actually help me to look at how does the ideal model look like for this particular role. What it tells us, as an example, depending on the job title and description, the person has to be social, which means that they have to be comfortable dealing with people from the working style perspective. The person has to also be enterprising, which is they have to be flexible in terms of being open to any issues that are coming through. Always think out of the box in terms of solving the problems. Also conventional, which means that process oriented. They have to either follow process or they should be good in creating process. And also investigative in nature, which means that they have to solve the problems. From the learning style perspective, the person has to have verbal linguistic skills, which means that they have to have the ability to learn, comprehend, and read, comprehend, and take actions. Interpersonal, which means that interpersonal intelligence, which means that they learn by interacting with people. And also intrapersonal, which means that they have to have empathy in terms of putting themselves in somebody else's shoe as they make a decision and learn from that experience. Logical, mathematical, because they have to solve problems. And these are the dominant attributes that are seen as a part of those extractions and are also the compatibility attributes. Having this in place, how does it basically help you in terms of doing what you just did, in terms of your creating the profile? You can either take the profiles that are created through images to compare to the ideal model, or you can even go directly into LinkedIn as an example. I'm just showing it to you here, where we would be downloading a few resumes. I'm just going to go into LinkedIn, download a resume of an HR director, and basically map it to the system. And this is the passive way of sourcing the candidates. I'm going into people. And say if I want to pick this person, Florencia, she is a second connect. I'm not even connected to her. Say if this person is, say, applying for the role or is a part of your database of resumes, you can actually use the publicly posted information. What I right now am accessing is the publicly posted content. Go into the profile and basically create a profile. And I'm going to upload the resume now. And by posting the resume, I'm able to create the personality. You can see it's primarily creating the personality and the profile. And this is how the person's working style, learning style, dominant and compatibility attributes looks like. Working style based on what words have been used in the resume, learning style, dominant and compatibility attributes. So having this in play, how does it basically help you in terms of making informed decisions? We can basically look for the list of candidates who are part of the system, look for the role that I was talking about. In this case, it was the HR director HR, and generate the report. And what it shows us, you can see she's right at the top. Basically, we show the cultural alignment as well as the technology alignment. And not only we show you this, we also give you the insights in terms of how does the match look like. With respect to the ideal model, you can see the ideal model and the person, working style, learning style, dominant and compatibility attributes. And not only that, we also provide you insights as a part of bringing that person into the ecosystem. How do you email? How do you communicate? What are the best tools to communicate? And what kind of incentive programs may work for this individual, training-wise, compensation-wise, and employee engagement-wise. That way, it makes it easy for you to engage with this person as they come for the interview process. Okay. The same concept of creating ideal models. You can even tag teams. Say you have your team members whose profile has been created in the system. You can actually create the team of people who will be interacting with this particular HR director. Director HR. I'm just picking these may be the employees that may interact with this particular candidate who is coming in. And if that is the case, we have already created a team and we have identified what are the compatibility attributes that would be required for this team to work well with the candidate. And I can go back to the ideal model that I had created and I can assign the team. And by doing this, what happens is that I can create the prioritized list where I not only get to know the technical fitment and the cultural fitment, but also the team fitment in terms of the synergy. So all three can be done at the same time, even before you pick up the phone and start the conversation, so that you can have a funnel of candidates who potentially can end up taking that role at a much faster pace.
I was going to say, Ganesh, maybe this would be a good time to stop for a second and ask other question. I mean, this is pretty interesting stuff, and there's a lot of stuff that you presented already. So maybe we'll take a quick bench check. Any questions of anyone? If not, sorry about that. Go for it.
Either it's too clear or it's as clear as a mud. I'm hoping it's a earlier
I think
one.
it's very clear. Like I said, the magic is being unveiled.
Yeah. So the next part that you would see here is, as you have this analytics, it can be for your employees too. You can also look for the team synergy. What we look for is the compatibility between the individuals. As an example, we can pick the compatibility of people as an example, and look for how does the team synergy looking like. And this can tell us the aspect of where the strong match is, satisfactory match, and the weak matches. And there is nothing right or wrong in terms of when we say weak match, it's primarily low synergy seen between the two profiles. There is nothing wrong in having low synergy. Generally, in companies, we have seen they have satisfactory and strong match. In some cases, we have seen the weak match. Wherever the profiles are seen, as I hover through the grid, you would see the profiles. We can actually click on each of these and see how does the overlap look like, as an example. So in this case, myself and Mario, as an example, have the similar kind of working style, learning style, as well as dominant, and more importantly, the dominant attributes of mine may be compatible to Mario's working style or compatibility style, and vice versa. And that makes the person work well with each other professionally. So this helps the manager to figure out where the potential low synergy is. And for those low synergies, we basically ask the managers to download the PDF report and share it with the individuals, where it is all about how do you know how to work with each other? How do you know, how do you interact with the other person in a more cordial way? What are the dominant attributes, so that it's more about bringing those awareness to reduce the potential friction. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
This is Ken McCullum. Very interesting stuff. A nice, very nice, comprehensive process. Tell me though, how do you see this? How does this would actually work in a real world environment from the human resource department standpoint and the manager's standpoint? How would you work? How would you integrate the system in the way that recruiting and selection is handled in most American corporations?
So that's a very good question. So it depends on how you want to consume this within your human resource platform. If you have an application tracking system, and if you want to integrate these features of sourcing, screening within the application tracking system, including generating reports, we have APIs in play where we would work with the ATS providers to basically plug that in, which is very seamless. If you don't want to go through that IT integration part, we also have standalone entities where you can use this as a part of sourcing, screening, and getting those insights to the hiring managers. And once those people are in, you can basically use those profiles. We have the ability to give the outcomes directly feeding into the ATS system, even though it's a standalone entity. So it can be either or, depending on how you want to consume it. That makes the process easier. Does it help?
Yeah, that helps. So would so the initial users and doing the screening and the identification of the of the candidates would typically be a human resource department?
Oh, yes. So it would primarily be either the recruiters, or it could be the talent acquisition manager, or the team within the talent acquisition.
Right. Okay.
But
Okay,
the same thing can be extended towards hiring managers or any HR managers who have a team, because what we are able to do is a couple of things which are beyond hiring. The same data that you are extracting with respect to your working style, learning style, dominant and compatibility attributes, we are able to see if it can be used towards the job rotation program. So nowadays we are working with really big companies where there is more than maybe 100,000 employees, and they struggle to move some of the employees into the new business units. So as a part of this automated analysis of your personality and skills, we are able to show alternate jobs that would suit your personality. So that really makes the process of transitioning the person into the new business unit a lot more smoother. In the process, we also show who can be compatible mentors that they can be connected with based on the personality, so that they connect with those mentors with the right personality and skills, so that they are transitioning into this new environment faster. We are also able to show how to create a most compatible team. If you would say that, hey, these are the skills out of the 100 people, show me the most compatible team, we can do that, or even show you where the low synergy can be within the team. That's exactly what I was sharing. And as a part of this transition, we can also help you in customizing the training programs. This is something that we are working with Learn at Forbes, as an example, the Forbes magazine, where they are now creating courses that you can go online, register, and you can basically say, hey, these are the roles that I want to basically apply for. And based on those roles, it would give you a list of training programs. And what we are able to do as a part of that recommendation is, through resumes, we understand your skills. Through images, you are doing, when you go into Learn at Forbes, you would go through the image analysis, where we then identify the soft skills, and based on the technical as well as non-technical skills compared to the job, we can identify the gaps and come back with specific courses that would fulfill those gaps. So it makes the recommendation a lot more targeted, which makes the transition a lot more easier for the talent. So this can also be used for employees as a part of the talent analytics.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a couple of questions.
As you're creating effective work teams, obviously this kind of tool could be very useful, as you're pointing out, because that's really where the rubber meets the road. And it's one thing to hire individuals and find a mechanism for matching them with their job skills and their aptitudes and their personality with the right job. But I've found, creating a whole team environment that supports, where the members support each other and work smoothly with management, is a whole other ballgame. I think your system really, because of the comprehensiveness, really offers some advantages over some of the other selection and team development tools that I've seen. So kudos to you for developing a very robust system that can be used from everything from hiring individuals to building more effective teams. Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate the acknowledgement. And that's the goal that we are looking for, is the talent analytics platform. And it has to serve both sides of the aisle. It has to also serve the talent who is coming in. I see the questions from Uril in the chat window, and I will answer that, which is basically the first one, which is, how do the applicants respond back to the testing? The applicants are always wary about, why should I even go through this process? And we have already implemented it in some of the larger organizations. And it has to always be an opt-in process. You cannot force people to do this. And two, the key part here is, it has to be meaningful to the end users, which is applicants. What's in for me? The answer is simple. If you look at all the results, none of them are negative. All of them are positive attributes that define who you are.
And that basically helps us to show some of the positivity of those talent that are applying for the role. And what they get out of this process is not only the process of applying for the role, getting the PDF report, but in many cases, a prioritized list of jobs that would suit their personality. So that kind of becomes an intrinsic motivation. Why should I even go through this process? Yeah, so generally there is some level of skepticism to begin with, but if you tell them that the results are primarily positive outcomes and we get you a prioritized list of jobs, it becomes like a no-brainer for the applicants. Does that help answer the first question before I move to the next one? Arul? Okay. The next question from Arul is, how do you screen for any types of bias? Is that even possible? So that's a brilliant question. So one of the key things that we have tried to do is there are two aspects of bias. One is understanding your personality. When we look for understanding your cultural values, we don't ask you what's your gender, race, ethnicity, facial expression, or contours. Those are the parameters that leads to bias. And I'll share with you some of the case studies that we have done. PwC scouted, PricewaterhouseCoopers scouted for almost like close to 180 companies across the globe, AI companies, and they picked us as an ethical, unbiased platform because of the way we do the analysis of the end users. Having said that, we also make sure that the experiments that we do is extremely comprehensive. End of the day, we basically try to have maximum number of users from different continents who participate in giving inputs to the tool that can make them understand different ethnicity, different genders, even the different age that basically comes into aspect of response, so that it can be baked into the process of understanding the individuals and their personality. But having said that, this is still a probabilistic tool. I wouldn't say this is a deterministic tool. This is one of the ways to basically understand the users as they come into the interview process. And in the current process, if you look at it, the way the screening is done, either it is purely through judgment of somebody who is looking at the resume, or it may be you're given a search feature, you add in some queries, and if those queries are shown up into the resume, you pretty much get those resumes in place. So that filtering is already happening, which is rudimentary or maybe in many cases biased in nature. We are trying to add more layers to it so that it becomes more of a informed decision-making process. There is a question on, does that help, Arul? I take that as a yes. Silence as a yes. Bobby, I see your question.
I don't know if you can hear me. I was using computer audio.
Oh. Yeah. Yes.
Now we can hear you. Was that
okay, great. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yes,
And now I can hear you.
It's pretty amazing.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Bobby, I see a question. Where is the research that backs these results? I'm just curious. Happy to share. So so there are 7 patents already in place. We have published journal papers and we are still publishing more journal papers. We are in the process of adding 2 more right now. We just published 2 last month. So there is quite a bit of research that have been done. Happy to share that if there is an interest. Let me know, Bobby. And also, as a part of the outcomes, we also are able to, sure, anytime, Bobby. So as a part of the outcomes, we are also able to add one more layer of information. This can be used as a part of filtering criteria. And these are the 16 workplace values. These are the ones that are being prescribed by the US government through ONET. And this is across all the industry you can think of. So apart from not only giving you the cultural fitment, team fitment, and the technology fitment, in those elements in the enterprise, we also add a filter where you can say, hey, I'm looking for these prioritized lists you're giving me, that's good. Out of these 50, I want to find people who are dependable, paying attention to details, are able to take high stress, have some leadership quality, and have some innovation. We are able to also tag these to every profile, and we can just give you a refiltered view of those candidates having those attributes. These are some of the results that we have seen. We have seen the validation. We have to go through validations within the companies. We have seen up to 90% accuracy in terms of what we predict as people who may not work well, as seen in the performance management system. We are able to save up to 60% in finding the right talent coming into a particular role. Able to remove subjectivity when it comes to cultural alignment, hiring a person for a particular role, because when it comes to cultural alignment, people have different thoughts and there is no framework used, and we are able to put a standard framework that makes the subjectivity less in terms of hiring. And most importantly, what we have seen is if you align the core motivations to the right opportunities, we have seen an improvement of at least 2x. And these are some of the case studies that we have seen. This was with the second largest financial institute in India, where they basically ran it through 35,000 employees. And this is basically a chart which basically shows the aspect of our score as compared to their performance management system. We had an accuracy of 91%. And again, this is a probabilistic, we will never be 100% there because humans are too hard to understand. What we are trying to bring out is parameters that can make you make informed decisions. This was with the one of the largest chain QSRs, quick service restaurant business in Canada, A&W. They were having 25% attrition per month, and we were able to get down that number from 25 to 2%. It took us 9 months. But at the end of the day, what this shows is that if you align the core motivations to the right opportunities, assuming the compensation factor remains the same, you automatically would start seeing the retention go up. And this is the best part, where we basically worked with the largest insurance company, German company Allianz, where they hired the frontline sales and credit officers using the system. And people who got hired through our system exceeded the quota by 2.5x as compared to people who got hired through the normal channel, directly hitting the top line. Multiple ways of engaging with the platform, APIs, white label, even the out-of-the-box solution, or through partner tools. And the key part here, the next two slides, basically, I would love to conclude with the next two slides, is there has been a lot of validation done from the likes of PwC, which is very big on compliance. And because we do not focus on gender, race, ethnicity, facial expression, or contours, we are being tagged as GDPR compliant, as well as we are FERPA compliant. I don't think there is a single AI tool out there that is FERPA compliant, which is primarily used by the universities within United States, where they also look for efficacy of the tools when it comes to using within the student community. And these are some of the customers using the service. We see a broad brush of customers, right from low pay, high volume, with the likes of McDonald's, Tim Horton, or even Yum Brands, which is the parent company of Pizza Hut, KFC, and Taco Bell, to the likes of the sixth largest law firm, which is the Grant Thornton, where they hire the lawyers and the operations related to law firm, or the accounting firm as well, to the two largest financial institute, to Recruit, which is the parent company of Indeed and Glassdoor. We also have California State University and Thunder Bay of Commerce. California State University is a state government institute, and also Thunder Bay of Commerce, which is Canadian government. We also have Netone System, which is the parent company of, it's actually their parent company is Mitsubishi, largest system integrators in Japan, two largest shipping companies. So end of the day, what I meant is this is not only used for hiring, but also for employee engagement as well as employee learning management system. Learn at Forbes, as an example, is using it to customize every person's training module using your personality as well as the skills. So this can go in multiple aspects of talent lifecycle management. Already have a patent on this system. We have 7 actually now, multiple accolades. But more importantly, what we are trying to do here is help you from the perspective of the talent lifecycle management right at the start of the funnel, where we can broaden the scope, where you can even bring in passive candidates. We make the process of screening a lot more faster, and give you rich insights that would make your decision not only strong, but also help you in onboarding and as well as retaining that environment for a much longer time.
So Ganesh, I'm seeing that we're about 3 minutes away. Are you available to stay on a little bit? I can certainly keep the call open for those who are willing to and wish to ask questions and stay on a little bit. Certainly, I understand many of you will have to scoot on to another meeting, so I'll leave it to you, Ganesh. Do you want to keep it open? I've got a couple of questions personally. Okay.
Sure.
So we'll keep the meeting on. If you have to leave, again, allow me to quickly say to all of you, thank you very much again for both supporting Dotin and attending today's session, and then certainly the Technology Review Council, where we've got a full lineup coming up for August. So I'm very, very excited about that. And we'll keep those the reruns away from you and have new material to bring. So anyone in the audience have a question of Ganesh or some feedback before you have to leave? Okay, and if not, let me. Oh, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
How much does the system cost to use?
It can be as low as $69 per month for 100 assessments per month. And if you want to go up to 1,000, it's about $339. So it's at a much lower cost. And more importantly, the monthly cost would give you the opportunity to use the talent analytics towards matching it to the job, matching it to the team. You can do it multiple times, download the resume multiple times. So we keep it at a low flat fee that would actually help you to just use your credit card and not even having, if you're a manager, you don't have to even look for an approval in terms of using this tool within your environment.
Thank you.
Let me ask a very quick question for you, Ganesh, that might be an easy one to answer, and that is, Ken had asked the question how to kind of incorporate this. Do you have any clients that are maybe doing this internally? In other words, not in the recruiting world, but to your point of assessing teams and their makeup or forming new teams using the product, so that they're really not disturbing an HR process or going to the sacrosanct area of what we do normally, but actually using the tool in a slightly different way as a validation.
So there are a couple of, if I understand, you're asking who are the customers who are using it more for the employees versus hiring. Is that right?
Yeah, more along the lines of, I'm looking at it as a pilot, so if I were going to bring you in, I may not choose to go in there and disrupt the world of recruiting per se, but rather let me test the validity of your product in a more closed environment, like team building for a particular unit or a new project that's coming up, just so I get a better assessment on how that works, how do people react to it, how to communicate, etc.
Absolutely. So we are actually doing a couple of them with some of the really big banks, some big system integrators in Japan, where they are using it for a group of maybe 100 people, and they want to try it out within that environment before they roll it out across the organization. So we do have the concept of proof of concept, but there is always a request to have certain number of people so that you can see the trend. With few, if it is just 10 to 15 people, the trend does not seem that clearly. Versus if we have at least 50 to 100 people.
Okay. And then I'll call this a very larger question, but again, being a technologist, I will apologize to the HR professionals in the audience before I say this. So the job descriptions as we know them today are really kind of a dying breed as far as I'm concerned. We're just not doing a great job of capturing what is needed, what the job really looks like, what it is morphed into as somebody occupies the spot. And so I'm seeing a couple of people starting to say to you as a candidate, don't look at all our jobs as they stand. Tell me what you think you'd like to do here. In other words, create your own job, for a better term. My perspective is, what does that do to your product as a result of the fact that it no longer has a bench check against a job description? Are you able to maybe move into a slightly different manner in which to use me as a candidate and my fit to something that's maybe a little less tangible, maybe at a higher level? And I'm thinking really out of the box on this one, Ganesh, but I'm just trying to think a little down the road where job descriptions really they're just not working. So any thoughts on how the tool gets impacted?
Absolutely. So that's a very good question, right? Garbage in, garbage out. What we have done is we actually tag every job. If you don't have a minimum of 100 words, we look for at least 100 words to come back and see if this job has enough meaning. If not, we go back to own it, which is a standard that we always use, prescribed by government, US government, and they have already prescribed for every job what are the descriptions available. So we directly tag to those and come back with insights versus looking at your description if the data is not enough. So we have the ability to go back, look at own it, and come back with insights.
Right. And really the impetus of that question came from you watching you take and extract something from a LinkedIn profile, which is really just a number of words. So I'm thinking that maybe what we're doing is moving the job description up to more, this is what we want from people. Not a particular job, but this is what we want: energy, we want, innovation, all the wonderful keywords, but building a profile of the kind of thinking and the productivity of an individual that I'm going to then try to match people coming through the front door. So I think there's probably, what I like about the fact is the product is not finished and you've got latitude to continue to increase it in its value and what it can do just based on what you are doing. So I give Dotin some very thumbs up on that one. Folks that are still out there, and again, I appreciate it, would you like to give any feedback directly to Ganesh about the product in general? Not only just questions, but just ease of use, look and feel, premise, any of that stuff. These are all things that Ganesh has been very responsive to.
And any candid feedback is a good feedback. Please don't hold yourself back.
That's very true.
Well, this is Lynn. It was very easy to use. Again, things were displayed on the screen, and then you chose the images in the 60 seconds. And once you chosen the amount of the necessary amount of images, it stopped. If it was less than 60 seconds, I should say 60 seconds, and very easy to use. And the results came up fairly quickly. And interestingly enough, the #1 job position for me is human resources. So
yeah, I wonder how that happened.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, reading the results, it makes you think. Very good. In terms of to me, the insight and the analysis to me seem pretty much on target. So
yeah.
Thank you. Sincerely appreciate it. And Lynn, one thing I forgot to mention, you can click on each of these dots to see some of the definitions change on the right side. Otherwise, people sometimes forget to click on these dots and they feel that the first default one shown is the only attribute for the working style. So you can click on each one of them to see more definitions.
Oh, great. I will do that then. Thank you.
And to your point, Ganesh, and that's a little discussion you and I had before, but there is no right answer. That's what I love about this. There's really no right answer in this perspective. Everybody wants to be a type A and whatever. No, there's just no not right answer. This is just kind of me. And so when I don't think you've got my profile out there, but it looks like two equilateral triangles that meet in the middle. So therefore, I have absolutely no tolerance for detail, and Lynn knows that as well. So, but it looked like I was on the outer edges on the the social side and the other stuff, but the detail stuff, forget it. And it was pretty true. And as I said in the email, I gave this to my wife. She started reading and said, "Did you write this about yourself?" Because it was right on the money. So, again, thank you all very much. If there is nothing else, then I'll call it a day. And again, thank you very much for attending, and thank you for some really cool questions. Ganesh, thank you very much for both being our guest and then also having a very nice product. So I appreciate that very much.
Likewise, it's a pleasure to know you all. Thank you, Noah, for this opportunity. And feel free
right.
to reach out to us if there are any questions.
Well, actually, do you have a slide on how to get a hold of you? Of course, anybody can call me and I'll find you.
Yeah. So
there we go.
Yep.
Sounds good. Alrighty. Well, stay well, and we'll be seeing you again. I think it's the 15th. Look for another email coming through. All right. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye.